From our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening. As rain continues to fall over our west coast, authorities are still urging communities to remain vigilant. They continue to battle multiple fires across a large area, including Yellowband Plain and Arthur Pyman Conservation Area, as members of the public band together to help those who need it most.
Communities enduring terrifying scenes. Smoke making it hard to breathe. Thick ash blanketing the sky.
Strawn was covered in smoke and I found it quite confronting and scary.
It was really otherworldly, really.
The community rallying together in these unprecedented times.
I think that's when you see the very best of human nature.
This cafe in Queenstown offering free or discounted meals for those affected.
My team and I were notified of Zian being evacuated on Thursday evening, and our team here at the railway and everyone around town's immediate thoughts were, what can we do to help?
That's the way this community operates.
93,000 hectares have been burnt, with multiple fires still alight in the region. The main blazes that have crews concerned are the Yellowband Plains, Pyman River, Mount Donaldson and the Canning Peak fires.
As with all of these active fire fronts and fire events, they remain dynamic and we need to be flexible and be able to adapt to those conditions.
A cooler change in weather welcomed relief, but significant rainfalls are needed to make an impact to the firefighting efforts.
May assist in some areas depending on the vegetation, how much we get, but it's definitely welcome compared to the hotter conditions.
There was even snow falling in Maina, but there's a strong message from authorities as conditions can change in the blink of an eye.
We're hoping the community won't become complacent.
Many praising the efforts of those on the ground.
We've been watching the helicopters go backwards and forwards for days now, and it's an amazing job they're doing.
Thanks for everything. The town may be in a very different situation if it wasn't for people like you guys.
Yes, and let's go live now to Lily Thompson at the Zian Fire Station. Lily, this battle to bring these blazes under control has been going on for a long time now. How is morale amongst the crews?
Well, morale seems to be pretty high at the moment, Murph, especially with that recent rainfall. Now, like you said, I am just outside the Zian Fire Station where crews have been coming in and out of all day. I spoke to a firefighter earlier who told me without the rain, the fire would have been knocking on the doors of Zian residents. Now, that just goes to show you how close the fire was to the town. Now, there is some warmer weather expected towards the end of next week. Authorities have their eye on that. There's also still various watch and act alerts in places for areas including Corinna, Sandy Cape and Renison Bell. Now, it's important to note that there are 2 community meetings being held in the area, one here in Zian tomorrow and the other at Arthur River tomorrow at 1 p.m. Now, Murph, that's for anyone with any further questions during this terrifying time.
Thanks, Lily. Lily Thompson there in the fire region, bringing us up to date with what's happening there on the west coast. After months in the lurch, West Coast salmon workers now have certainty. The Prime Minister pledging to protect jobs with new environmental laws coming on the back of a promising data on more and skate numbers. But the timing is raising eyebrows with a federal election just around the corner.
A pledge West Coast workers have waited months to hear.
We ensure that jobs remain in Macquarie Harbour, that the salmon industry continues in Macquarie Harbour, that we have sustainability of the environment in Macquarie Harbour.
The Prime Minister committing to introduce changes to environment laws backing salmon farming on the West Coast. But the timing of the announcement labelled fishy business ahead of an impending federal election.
This is a political fix, not a proper promise. And you can't trust this Prime Minister. Otherwise, he would have tabled the legislation. He would have shared it with the opposition.
I don't know if we would be able to see any legislation come through before he calls an election. So, is it a hollow promise? What is it?
The changes to legislation coming alongside $28 million to improve water quality and boost the captive breeding program of the endangered Maugean skate. But there are concerns it'll do more harm than good.
This is an outrageous siding with the profits of foreign industrial salmon farming corporations over the marine health of Macquarie Harbour and over the future of the Maugean skate.
It coincides with a new IMAS report showing the population of skates living in the harbour is bouncing back, while water sampling shows an increase in oxygenation.
From our perspective, this ends the debate. Clearly, the science is speaking clearly that there is a strong recovering population now in the harbour.
But the researchers behind the work admit they're cautiously optimistic.
It's not a simple system to understand, and this is why we need to keep doing science to understand what's happening, because things are changing.
An issue continuing to divide Tasmanians, hook, line and sinker. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmanian News.
The Prime Minister's intervention comes with a federal election due to be called within weeks. Political reporter Josh Martin is following this story for us from Canberra. Josh, this is surely a sign of how influential Tasmania might be in the lead up to the vote.
Yes, Pete, expect to see a lot of the Prime Minister and opposition leader in Tasmania during the campaign. Today's decision to save the salmon industry brings the electorate of Braddon into play for Labor. It's held by the Liberals with a 10% margin, but popular local member Gavin Pearce is retiring and Labor is running local Senator Anne Urquhart, who is quite popular as well. If the PM didn't act on the salmon industry, it could have been a wipeout for Labor in Tasmania. Now those seats are back in play.
They certainly are. Thanks very much for your work there, Josh. A much-loved Tassie tradition almost wasn't to be, but penny farthings have once again taken over the streets. The 42nd annual championship drawing competitors from across the globe. And just like their rides, age is no limit for the competitors either.
From the brink of extinction to another one for the history books, penny farthings have made a triumphant return to Evandale.
It's the heart of what we do. If you think of Evandale, you think of penny farthings, so it means a lot.
Last year, the event almost ran its course, but a new committee pedalled in overdrive to keep the tradition alive.
We don't want this event to die. A very small team of extremely dedicated people.
The wet weather not raining on this parade or the grit of the competition.
These bikes aren't known for their safety. This is a solid rubber tyre. There's no tread on there, so we have to be quite careful.
Crowds packing the streets, catching a glimpse of the two-wheel action and the fun off the bike too.
It's the most ridiculous race, so it's called the obstacle race. We have to run, carry your bike back, and it's very heavy, roll the bike, and then race it back.
The iconic event attracting racers from across the world, Neil Lawton making the trip all the way from the UK.
Such an iconic event. I've heard lots about it. I could not be on a plane and come and see it and play and come and ride.
And at age 87, David Axon is the second oldest competitor, but he's still young at heart, coming back for another ride.
Just the draw of it, and it's a great event. I've not ridden my bike since this time last year.
Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
An Aussie sailor has arrived in Hobart bright and early after a gruelling 70-day trans-ocean voyage from Spain. Guided by Cole Brewer, the first American woman to sail solo around the world, Elizabeth Tucker is preparing for the 2027 Global Solo Challenge, and it's been an eye-opening experience.
The last few days were probably the hardest. We had about 4 days of upwind, slamming a lot. The boat was really uncomfortable, so my body really hurts. I haven't slept for 2 days.
You are entering the Southern Ocean, which is such a transition zone into the crazy.
Next stop is Sydney, where they'll launch an all-women's Sydney Hobart campaign. It might take a while for these sailors to find their land legs again. A huge party in Hobart helping American sailors Ken and Christine wrap up their 2-decade-long trip around the world on the Grateful Red. The pair's first journey was from Florida 20 years ago. Since then, they've sailed and thrown a party everywhere they dock.
We have the luxury of picking and choosing when we go and where we go. And over the years, we've done island hopping in the Caribbean. We've been up to Canada. We've just had it all.
The duo now plan to sell their pride and joy before heading back to the States to spend some time with family. Defending netball champions, the Northern Hawks have started their campaign on a high, beating Cripps Waratah by 10. That game kicking off a super round to open the Tasmanian Netball League, followed by a much larger margin between Devon and the Corona Flames at the Silverdome. A 39-goal masterclass from Devon's Tyra Bacon setting up that big win. The final score 68-30. Hobart's Max Giuliani is back in the pool and on the podium, snaffling gold in the men's 200-metre freestyle final last night, finishing half a second clear of his closest rival at the Victorian Long Course Championships. He's racing again tonight in the 200-metre freestyle final after winning his heat and qualifying fastest in this morning's session. And potential Devils draftees have been on show in the state's north today in Mowbray as the best young footballers from the north and south went head-to-head in a talent academy trial. State coaches Brad Cox-Goodger and Jess Wujner watching the under-16s closely to choose final squads of 23 to play interstate matches in April and July. The Talent Academy is the first step in developing young footballers to hopefully join our AFL and AFLW sides.
Good evening. Hobart 15 degrees today, 17 in Launceston, Devonport 18 and 16 at Burnie. 19 on Flinders Island, 18 at King Island, Low Head, St Helens and Friendly Beaches. Smithton 17, Strawn 16, 15 on Marai Island, 14 at Grove and Bushy Park, Lyowini just 7 degrees. We saw mostly cloudy conditions today, and can you believe parts of the Central Plateau experienced some snowy conditions? Incredible. An extensive cold air mass pushed over the state and southeastern Australia. Tomorrow, the high pressure system will shift to the east of the Bight with a low to the southeast. South to southwesterly winds reaching upward of 35 knots in the northeast, southwesterly swells at 4 metres. A gale warning has been issued for waters between east of Flinders Island to Wineglass Bay. Also a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters to include Frederick Henry, Norfolk, Storm Bay and the Channel. A warning to sheep graziers in the southeast and a bushwalkers weather alert for the western and central plateau. A shower or two in Hobart tomorrow, 16, much the same at Richmond, 17, 18 and partly cloudy at Ooze. A partly cloudy day in the north, 20 the top 4 Launceston and Devonport, 18 at Deloraine. Partial cloud in Burnie, 19, a couple of showers for Strawn, 17, winds easing at Curry with 19. Showers possible in St Helens, 19, showers likely to clear at Swansea with 17, and a fine and sunny 19 at Whitemark. Monday, light showers about the west becoming more frequent about the southwest. Showers statewide on Tuesday contracting to the west, far south and the northeast in the afternoon. And it will be fine on Wednesday apart from showers about the west and far south. To mainland conditions for Sunday now, a shower in Melbourne tomorrow, 18, 33 and partly cloudy in Brisbane, a mostly sunny 35 degrees in Perth tomorrow. Right now, Hobart, partly cloudy, 12 degrees, partly cloudy also in Launceston with 14 and windy at Devonport with 14 also. Wishing you, Murph, and your lovely wife, Donna, a very happy wedding anniversary. And doesn't she deserve a medal?
Certainly not, but thanks for reminding me, Kaya. I hope the supermarkets still have cheap flowers at this time of the night. And for you and Dan tomorrow, your anniversary as well. That's all our news for now. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night's viewing. Good night.